Hi there and welcome to the RevOps show. Starting out with some exciting news, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the Revenue Acceleration Framework. Yes, that's right, Doug's best-selling book that has helped countless of businesses close the gap between strategy and execution. If you haven't grabbed your copy yet, you'll find the link to purchase one in the show notes. In today's episode, Doug and Jess are diving into a concept straight from the book, acceleration cycles. What are they? Why should they matter to you and your business? What kind of timing should you be thinking about? And most importantly, the power of acceleration cycles and the consistency they bring to help you grow faster, smarter, and more predictable. So with that, let's get into it.
Jess.
Doug.
I don't know that I'm ready for the podcast today. This is the time, this is the actual time that we're scheduled to record podcasts, and we're actually recording it in the time that was sent. How can I be prepared for something like this?
You just commented you don't know if this has ever happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure we've ever actually recorded it in the original scheduled time. That makes us sound really good, right? We're a RevOps company, and what is it? The cobbler's children, right? Have no shoes or something.
Yep.
What does peach cobbler have to do with shoes?
Oh my God! Wow, we are
Apple
off to the races. No, it tells you how hectic our work lives are.
I've always thought of it being in the Tuesday 11 a.m. slot as think about the podcast.
Figure out what we're going to talk about during that time. That's our prep time.
Yeah. So Jess, you know what's coming? You know what next month is?
May.
You know what they say? April showers bring May flowers. You know what May flowers bring, don't you? Pilgrims.
Wow.
You look confused. You don't get it?
No.
April showers bring May flowers.
No, I understand the pilgrim reference. I get that.
Right?
I'm familiar with the Mayflower.
You know what the Mayflower brings?
Pilgrims. Yes.
That's
the punchline. It's amazing. It's hilarious.
Look, I can't help. That's all I got is the material that I got.
Exactly.
It's the 1-year anniversary. May is the 1-year anniversary.
Of?
Oh my gosh. This is shocking to me, Jess. Of the award-winning bestseller.
Oh.
Revenue Acceleration Framework.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's been out for a year.
Wow. It does not feel like it's been a year. Holy cow.
It doesn't. You know why? You know one reason why it doesn't feel like a year to me?
Because you're currently recording the audiobook.
I've been recording the audiobook for the last 6 weeks.
Here, see, I would think it would have felt like more than a year because you've been doing that. So
we'll have the audio version out slightly. It'll be a little bit more than the 1-year anniversary. We should have the audiobook out. And that way all the people, we'll find out, all the people who said, you know what, Doug, I would have bought the book, but I'd listen to books. I don't read them. We'll find out if they were telling the truth. It should be a bestseller just on that.
We'll see.
Let me tell you what.
We'll see. Yep.
Writing a book is hard.
Is reading a book harder?
It's not harder, but so I thought initially, hey, I would just record the book. It became pretty clear that I didn't have I needed something that had a better sound environment. So I've actually been going to a sound studio for this. And I got a coach who's directing the book. Holy cow. I mean, first off, you want to talk about, I had no idea what was involved in putting a book on audio. No idea. Reading a book is so hard. Reading your own book, I wish that on nobody. Nobody should ever have to read their own book out loud.
Brene Brown's done it 10 times.
So Brene, that's interesting. She has done it. She has done it many, many times. One of the things that I realized about the book, because it had been a while. I mean, the amount of time it takes to write the book. So Brene Brown, because of how she does it, everything gets compressed into a shorter time period. And it comes out simultaneously. Parallel. I didn't have that option. So the time that it takes to write the book, then the time it takes from the time that the book is written to it's published, then you're reading the book. It reminded me of a lot of things. And I think one of the things we're going to do as we're in the 1 year anniversary is I think we're going to revisit, as we are today, we're going to revisit several topics that I talk about in the book on the show. I think that should give us some topic vitality. The book is really, it's a broad book more than it's a deep book. And I mean, obviously I knew that when I wrote it.
Right.
I think if the book had been written, how they talk about on what went wrong, the initial transcript had, 300 pages.
Yeah.
Initial script had 300 pages, which would be a 300-minute movie.
Yep.
I think if the book were the length that I wanted it to be initially, I think it would be like an 850-page book.
It is not 850 pages.
So what it does is it really, I think it does a really good job on what it set out to do, which the book's called The Revenue Acceleration Framework. It provides the framework. It's a great book to begin a journey, or a great book to reset the journey. That's what I've been reminded of. And it's interesting. You read some of the stuff and you're like, hey, yeah, that's a good idea.
It's a good idea I had.
Are we doing that still? We should do that. So yeah, that, and if you think about it, we're going to talk about acceleration cycles today. And we've fallen off of it a little bit. Business discipline is so hard, Jess. It's so easy to fall off.
Have you gotten to this part of the book in your recording yet? Is that what prompted this, or are you not here?
What prompted it was I read it in the last session. I'm actually I have just the conclusion to read.
You're pretty far along. I was going to say this is deep into the book.
Yeah, no, we're basically done, and then I've got probably another 4 hours of pickups.
Ugh, it's gonna be rough.
I didn't know that was a thing until the first set of pickups that I did. Pickups are interesting because you have to listen to what you said the first time through, and you have to. It's pretty interesting. I do them pretty. I've been doing them pretty well.
I would hate this process for what it's worth.
Well, there are a couple times she's like, you need to, we need to do this. We'll listen to the first one through. And I'm like, I have no idea what it is you want. It sounds fine to me. But I'm just talent.
Exactly. You just show up and you cook, right?
I just do what I'm told.
Yeah.
That's always been my strength, Jess. I just do what I'm told.
That is not accurate, but okay.
What'd you say?
I said that is not accurate, but okay.
Jess, I'm like a meadow of lilies. I thought we
are. We have.
Yeah. So it recording. By the way, if I write another book, which I'm sure I will do, I am definitely going to use different words.
You told me that.
Like I'm definitely giving. So nothing with no words more than 2 syllables. It'll be a book of 2-syllable words or less.
It's going to be exciting.
I'm like, some of these things you're trying to read. It's a hard word to say. Read it aloud regularly.
Yeah.
That's
and you've been coached on how to pronounce words properly.
Yeah. So I don't have much of an accent, I've been told, but there's a couple of words that my mid-Atlantic. I didn't know, like mid-Atlantic. There's no such thing as a mid-Atlantic accent.
Apparently there is.
The only Baltimore accent is hun. You say hun.
Mm.
And I don't say that. So
see, my only Southern accent is y'all, typically.
Every now and then your Southern comes out.
I will pick up if I talk to people from East Texas, especially. The drawl comes in strong.
Apparently I say get instead of get.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, you do. Yep.
You know what I say? Get them while the getting's good. Get them while the getting is good.
Yep.
I pronounced began wrong before, but now it's interesting because I pronounce process.
Process.
Plural is processes.
Processes. Yes.
That's how I pronounce. So if I do the plural, I'm Canadian, I'm American on the singular and Canadian on the plural.
You have some Canadian pronunciation of words.
I did. I'm A instead of
Oh wow. This is brutal. This is where I wouldn't be able to. This is what would keep me awake at night. Is like, why have I been pronouncing A wrong my entire life?
You and you know me, I get my speaking styles. I get going, and what I've learned is the key to good audio book reading, audio book narration, is maintaining a pretty consistent pace. So that's really hard for me.
This is going to be your side gig after this? You're just going to be an audiobook reader?
I don't know that the money is good enough for the pain.
Respect out to all the audiobook readers out there.
There's a piece of me, not enough of a piece of me that I'll do anything about it. There's a piece of me that would be like, I'm curious to do a book that I didn't write.
Yeah.
To see if the experience is different. I mean, the other thing that's horrible is you pick up very clearly any typos in the book.
Yes, you've shared this with me.
A couple places where I read something, I'm like, I have no idea what that is saying. Because you can't. I mean, one of the keys is you've got to narrate, not listening to what you're like.
Right.
You've kind of you're narrating it. You're not listening, and
right.
So, and then it's kind of like skiing, right? So I've never been a particularly good skier. So you know how like what you get going when you're skiing, and if you're a beginner skier, like that's the extent that I've gotten to. You begin to go, okay, I've been going for a little while now. Isn't it about time that I fall? Right. So when I get on a roll,
yeah,
it's like all of a sudden it's like, wait. Okay, wait, and it becomes a see. So it's really hard not to get in your own head around it. So it's been a fascinating experience.
I look forward to listening to it.
I mean, what could be better? What could be better than listening to me talk about the revenue acceleration framework?
What I'm going to do on my next vacation.
Like the beach and Doug in my ears.
Exactly.
My apologies to all involved. So what are we talking about today, Jess?
So, to quote you, be sure to give your efforts enough time to work, and be sure you don't wait too long to make an adjustment. We're talking about acceleration cycles today from the book. So can you, for those who haven't read it, can you explain what is an acceleration cycle?
For those who haven't read it, there are people who haven't, but yes, it's a best-selling book.
Everyone's read it, Doug.
It's an award-winning.
As a refresher for all of us, for everyone, obviously, who's read the book.
There we go. Wow, I wasn't ready for that question. Explain what an acceleration cycle is. It's a repeatable, actually, I would say it's a repeated period of time that involves planning and execution. So a period of time where so you take. I mean, we've talked about the infinite game. And business is an infinite game. It's not a finite game. Check out our episode on the infinite game. I remember that one being a good one. Don't blame me if I'm misremembering, but I remember it being a good one. Forever is an interesting time period to operate in, right? And so one of my other favorite quotes is a Peter Drucker quote. Businesses rarely go out of business because of starvation. They're far more likely to go out of business because of indigestion. We're overwhelmed with opportunities. I find maybe it's overstimulation, but I find I get paralyzed when I have too much that I could be doing. It's why I'm better. Like I've learned I'm a better wartime leader than peacetime leader. When there are problems, the problems create a lot of focus. When there's lots of choice, well, we can choose what to do. How do we want to do this? You can get it. Like I find that to be very paralyzing, and the difficulty, so what an acceleration cycle is, it's a learning cycle. it's a beginning, middle, and end for learning in a way that you can apply that to be able to take action. And one of the things that I've seen that happens is we get bogged down in learning, we get bogged down in buy-in, and so an acceleration cycle is, the components of an acceleration cycle are have a hypothesis, take action, get a result, learn, and apply that to your next hypothesis. And I call them acceleration cycles because the way we talk about acceleration cycles, the way we do acceleration cycles is very much the way an organization should go about doing annual plans. Where are we? Where do we want to be? What have we learned? What actions do we want to take? By the way, the what actions do we want to take? That's the hypothesis. Take those actions. And then the art is giving your acceleration cycle enough time to have impact, but not so much time that you get caught being wrong.
So I want to talk about the timing piece. I'm glad you brought this up. So I do want to talk about how you determine the ideal length of time. But before we go there, you talk in the book, and we've talked on the show about this before, about 90 days being a really good time frame to operate in. Why 90 days? What's magic about 90 days? Let me put it that way.
There's a couple of things. I don't know that there's anything magical about it per se. The simplest is 90 days is long enough that you can do something that matters, long enough that you can run meaningful tests, long enough that you don't get so myopic that you become task focused, but short enough that you can make an adjustment, short enough that you don't get so locked into something, so deeply into something where sunk costs or your actions end up building constraints. So 90 days is a really good learning cycle. I don't know, why there's 4 of them in a year, which is a manageable number. So I first got exposed to the idea of 90-day planning in the Strategic Coach, Dan Sullivan. I've seen there's a difference between goal setting, and you've got short-term goals, long-term goals. 90 days breaks down into 3 segments. There's a power in 3. There's always been, I don't know why, but there's a power of 3. It gives you, in a typical world, 6 to 13 sprints, depending upon whether you're doing 2-week sprints or 1-week sprints. So they give you lots of cycles. But again, you don't get so bogged down. The world's not going to, I remember my nutritionist said this to me. She said, Doug, nothing's going to happen in 90 days that's going to be life or death, nutrition standpoint. Right. So it gives you enough time to be able to not obsess about the day, to lift your head up, to look forward. We talk about speed versus velocity. And what I find is in most cases, if you go shorter than that, you end up allocating on speed. If you go longer than that, you overwhelm yourself with too many, where you focus on too many things. So there's just something about 90 days. We do 90 days in how we implement programs for clients. There's something, we talked about, 90 days is powerful because it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. Both of those are 30 days.
Yeah.
Both of those. There's 3 types of people in the world.
All 3.
There's 3 types of people in the world, Jess. Those who get math and those who don't. Don't worry, everybody listening, sometime later this evening, you'll get that joke.
So is there a time where you might need to adjust from that 90-day recommendation?
Give me a little bit more what you're asking, because I could say yes or no, depending upon the angle.
You talked about the thought process between the 90 and why we would recommend that for acceleration cycles. Are there instances where you may reduce that to, say, 30 because of a particular initiative that you have going on? The best place I can equate this to is when we talk about sprints. So for example, if there's more going on or we need to get we need to pick up velocity, we'll typically reduce the sprint cycle to weekly sprints versus every other week to drive action and have those touch points. Are there instances where you're thinking about planning for your organization where you might want to reduce that 90-day cycle to a 60-day or 30-day cycle because of a particular initiative?
So I'm going to get really technical on you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes to increase velocity, you have to increase speed. So speed and velocity are not totally unrelated.
Right.
And so what shortening the sprint cycle does is it increases speed to increase velocity. So shortening the sprint cycle doesn't increase velocity. The danger in shortening the sprint cycle is that you pick up speed to an extent that doesn't justify your pickup in velocity, because velocity is the progress.
Yeah.
Is there a time where you would change your? So let me answer it in two ways. Would you go from a 90-day cycle to a 30-day cycle? And by the way, that's your choices are 1-year cycles, which I don't recommend, 6-month cycles, 3-month cycles, 1-month cycles. That's basically what I would choose from. A small business, lifestyle business, something, and I would actually call it more of a micro business, even more than a small business. You're probably fine on 6-month cycles, though there are other people that spend more time in that space than we do. So I would defer to them. I would say to go from a 90-day to 60-day cycle, there's not enough like that. That's more about what your plan within the 90-day is. To go to a 30-day cycle, if you were a professional services company and as a result of what you're doing from professional services, you were to develop an application, and that application all of a sudden got traction and you were seeing it grow at 100% plus per year. And in the initial year, probably 1,000%. And now you've become a tech company that still happens to have professional services. You might go to a 30-day cycle as an acceleration cycle where now again, remember what you're doing is you're doing the equivalent of an annual plan. You're updating the equivalent of your annual plan. We talked about this in the episode we did on 3 zones of execution. The greater the frequency of updating your annual plan, the less time it takes to update that. So in some ways, updating your annual plan 4 times per year takes less time than updating your annual plan 1 time per year. But I would say by and large, like for you to change one of the benefits of an acceleration cycle is there's a consistency in time period. And again, long enough to be able to judge something, not so long that you're stuck being wrong. With so much changing, with so many things happening, being able to, finding key areas that are consistent enable greater learning. So if you change your acceleration cycle time period, you're in essence changing the business that you're in. And I think one of the key things is I think if you're a fast growth business, if you're looking to grow 25, depending upon your size, 25 or 35% per year plus, quarterly acceleration cycles is the right. I think if you're a hyper growth business, you're probably looking at monthly cycles.
Okay.
So I would say that, by and large, no, you would not change. Hey, things are going really crazy right now. Let's do this acceleration cycle for 30 days and then go back. No, I would say what you've got is you've got a 30-day focus within your 90 days, or what's happening is you're more likely than not, you're overreacting to a situation. It's like trying to time pick stocks. Now, if you're a manufacturing company and let's say that your acceleration cycle kicked off on April 1st, 2025, and on April 2nd, the announcement about tariffs comes out, or if you're or maybe you launch your acceleration cycle on March 1st, on April 2nd, the tariff announcement came out, and suddenly you find yourself in a completely different world. That's a place where I would hit the reset button. We would reset our acceleration cycle. We would start over. I would not, like, if the world changes outside of you in a dramatic enough fashion, then where it no longer makes sense to plug in, then I would reset my acceleration cycles. There, I might go to, in a situation like that, I might go to 30-day cycles for a short period of time.
Because there's so much disruption to how you operate.
And you can't really make that plan. Although I'd more like, I still like the idea of, if you look at what happened, we can look at COVID, we can look at the tariff cycle, and if you were to change your plan right as that hit, you overreacted, right? So there is an element of time kills all deals. It also heals all wounds. But that's an example where I might reset, right? And we've got clients that are in a situation where they're dealing with it, and the entire nature of their business, I would even say their addressable market has shifted. They're like, that's a place where you would, okay, hey, you know what? New waypoint.
Well, and in those instances, like the tariff situation is a great example of this, but where you have that level of disruption, I agree there might be a reset on the acceleration cycle. We got to change the plan. I don't know that you so much change the length of your acceleration cycle, but I think you might change your cadence of check-in on how we're tracking and what we're doing. So those monthly check-ins become so much more important. Maybe you do move to shorter sprint cycles, at least for the first 30 days, to see how it's going. We've got a data restructure project we're working on right now, where initially we were going to check in every 2 weeks. And it's like, no, we got to check in weekly. There's too much going on. We're going to do that in the short term to get through, and it's a 90-day project to get through the 90 days. Like, there's an aspect where you can manage that disruption within that cycle without really changing your time frame on your acceleration cycle.
So I would reset my acceleration cycle. Like, I could be 17 days into my acceleration cycle and I reset it, and it's a new 90-day cycle. The other thing, one thing that I would consider doing, so let's say that your acceleration cycle was scheduled to end April 1st, knowing that tariffs were going to be announced April 2nd.
Yep.
I might extend for 30 days. Okay, we're going to continue to operate in the same, I might, but I don't, as I say that out loud, I think that would be a mistake, actually. So I think so I would probably stick. But yeah, so there's resetting your acceleration cycle. And I would be far more likely to reset my acceleration cycle than I would to change my acceleration cycle. Because, by the way, one of the powers of an acceleration cycle is, people can't operate. And we talked about this in change management. One of the problems, part of the problem with change management is its name, right? We define ourselves by the thing that we're uncomfortable with. And so in an environment and a world where so much change is happening, it's hard to come into work every day if what's going on in your mind. Lord knows, I remember when I was at Merrill Lynch in the early 2000, in March, April, May, June 2000, it's like, okay, well, what the hell is going to happen today? Can I just stay under my covers?
Yeah.
The thing about an acceleration cycle is it creates some permanence, right? So that I can come in and I can know, you know what? Nothing's changing today. Something might change in 30 days. Right. But there's that whole, like what the acceleration cycle does, and being able, the reason we call them acceleration cycles is, as you stick to them, there is a magic power to them that your velocity picks up. You just, as you sustain it, it's the power of consistency. It builds a consistency within a much broader context of an inconsistent world, and it allows you to adapt to change and be much more resilient. So your organization goes through much more change, but it doesn't feel like it's always going through change. And so what that, what acceleration cycles provide to your people, and it's why sprints are important. What it provides to your people is a little bit of a bubble, that allows that short-term certainty in longer-term uncertainty.
So where I want to go next is, what are the most common pitfalls organizations face when implementing acceleration cycles for the first time?
Too much. I mean, we made that mistake.
We never put too much into our 90-day plans.
That's the, there's 17 focuses for your, if you really think about it, the way I like to think about planning is I like to think 3 years in the future, 1 year in the future, 90 days into the future. So where do I want to be a year from now? That's kind of my intermediate term goal. Where do I want to be 3 years from now? That's my long-term goal. And when I talk about where I want to be a year, 3 years from now and goals, I'm talking much more about infinite game type goals. So again, it's more about the direction, more about the characterization, the picture of where we are, not the, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's relatively easy to create a bunch of smart goals for 1 year and 3 year. And it sounds really, but then, so it's really about establishing what are your key rocks, what are your key initiatives, and you can't have too many. And, again, what the part of the purpose of an acceleration cycle is to focus on first principles, is to focus on what is most important. And what focus is doing more with less, which, interesting, allows you to do more with less. And what I mean by that is focus on fewer things, put your resources to that, so you've got more to do with that. And then you're able to do more with less. You don't need as much to make the progress that you're making. So I know I'm sounding very brain teaser-ish right now. But that's what strategy is about. Strategy is about making those choices. And it's really hard, especially in the environment that we're in right now. It's really hard to make that, to make choices and decisions that impact where we're going to be in a year. But if we're focused on, does it get us, like, where are we looking to be in 90 days? Which is, by the way, my next thing is, it's more about outcomes than it is about outcomes. Right. So where are those things to really manage strategy effectively? You've got to understand what causes success for you. Right. Right. Your revenue numbers and things like that, those are lagging indicators that they tell you what happened. They don't tell you what is happening.
Yeah. So one thing about acceleration cycles that's interesting is it connects to one of our behavioral science topics, chunking, right? Breaks up your year. And I think the thing it does force you to do when you do it right is edit and say, okay, what am I actually gonna do? I felt this because I've been in epic planning with several of our clients, and we present the plan and like, okay, well, I want to do these 3 things too. Okay, cool. You can do those 3 things, but these things go away. Or we can backlog the 3 things, or a mixture of the 2, but we can't do all of it. Like, it's not going to happen.
I was interviewing somebody for a role here, and they asked the question, what are the metrics that we use to identify if we're successful? And I said, it's interesting that you asked that question, because what I would use to define success isn't a metric so much. It's how healthy is the backlog. Like, you show me somebody that we've got a good, healthy backlog with, I'll show you somebody that we're having success with. right? It is that aspect when we're finding more things that are worthy of our time and attention than we have time and attention, right? That's a program that is far more likely to have vitality than to not have vitality.
Yep.
And I think that there's an aspect, like, I think that's counterintuitive, right? Oh my God, our backlogs, we're falling behind. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you could be falling behind, but that's not because you're backlog.
Right.
Right. And the thing that's interesting is the more likely you are to overwhelm yourself, the more likely that you try to shove too much in, the greater the likelihood that you're going to be falling behind.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of keeping in mind of the backlog and managing things that happen and come in, like how does this work in action, and how do you track, making sure you're focused on the outcome, making sure that you're staying on track with that 90-day cycle, ensure that you're meeting the business requirements and not changing direction too much? Like how do you manage this? Like we talked about disruption, that piece, but let's put that aside. Like how do you manage staying focused on that 90-day acceleration cycle, tracking that you're where going in the direction you need to be, and not changing direction too much?
I think that there's two parts to a business, and I'm going to call it like 60 to 80% of a business is about managing your ongoing status quo, right? There's certain things that you need to be doing as a business, certain things that you need to be performing, certain things that you need to, and there's going to be KPI that are involved in that. But they change very, very little. They take up 60 to 80% of a business's capacity. Then the remaining 20 to 40%, those are the improvement initiatives. That's what tends to get all of the attention. So when you talk about what your annual plan is, most people, their annual plan is, what are all the things that we're, that are going to make us better, right?
Yeah.
But we end up allocating, it would take 80% of our resources to do those things. And by the way, so what ends up happening is we end up shifting attention and resources away from the ongoing, to an extent. So we actually, our ongoing business weakens. And so really understanding, those ongoing things, those are the standards that you have as a business and an organization. What are the, that's why values are important. That's why, having a clear operating system is important. I think one of the things that EOS that's really popular with a lot of smaller mid-sized companies, what it did that was different and special was it established what are the norms. It called out what are the norms that allowed that allocation of managing the ongoing business, managing the present company versus manifesting the future company. So I think you've got to break it into there, and then you identify, what are the key improvement areas. What are the focus areas? And you're going to have 3 to 5 focus areas. I think when you get above 5 focus areas, you're really bordering on too many. If you're above 7, it's way too many. And then what are this is where why I'm a fan of objectives and key results. The objectives are the key focus areas. Results are, how would we know that we are where we want to be? What would it look like? So you've got your 3 to 5 rocks. And by the way, as an organization gets bigger, there's many plans. Like there's the organizational set, and then it begins to waterfall its way down into the organization, which can allow a very broad set of initiatives ultimately. But they've got to come into a focused place. And I think from a go-to-market standpoint, this is where revenue operations is really responsible for facilitating and manifesting what is that go-to-market focus, what are our standards, what are our areas of improvement, what are the key signals, what are the key metrics are some of it, but you've got to look at, one of the problems with metrics is we over quantify too many things and we miss the qualitative element. And actually from a from a strength and resiliency standpoint, it's the qualitative data that actually has richer context oftentimes than the quantitative data.
And then as we're talking about kind of planning and measuring, how do you know when you should start planning your next acceleration cycle? When should you start planning your next acceleration cycle? I know for us, this is sometimes a struggle. Typically when you don't have that strong backlog, this is more difficult. But when do you start planning for the next cycle, knowing that they're building right on top of each other? You got this 4 times a year.
To some degree, you're always planning.
Mm-hmm.
Was it that Dwight Eisenhower was credited with saying planning is invaluable? Plans are useless, but planning is invaluable. So to some degree, you're always planning. The moment I'm done with and that's why a backlog is so important. If you're managing that backlog well, then planning the next cycle isn't so hard. And remember, it's long enough and short enough. So it's short enough. If I told you plan your next week, it shouldn't take you that long.
Right.
Right. I would say that you get serious about it in, part of your last 30 days of one acceleration cycle is preparing for your next acceleration cycle.
I've got some takeaways. Is there anything on acceleration cycles we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about?
The power of acceleration cycles, I said this earlier, but I just want to make sure it doesn't get lost. The power of acceleration cycles is the consistency that they bring. Remember, the word extraordinary is composed of 2 words, extra and ordinary. It's what allows that ordinary to become extra. It turns ordinary performance into extraordinary. That's why I call them, that's why I dubbed it an acceleration cycle, is as you do that and you make that a habit, you get more juice for the squeeze.
All right. So a couple of takeaways. So focusing on objectives and key results, not so much metrics as you're planning and measuring. Well, right. But not solely metrics. And as you're looking at how you're tracking and tracking your acceleration cycles, key objectives and key results. If there's a disruption, you can do a reset without having to necessarily change the length of your acceleration cycle. Don't take on too much and leverage the power of the backlog for sure. I really liked what you said about learning cycles. I don't think we talk enough about how a piece of planning is learning and adjusting. And so thinking of this as a learning cycle is a really great way to approach it.
The thing I would say, Jess, is if you focus on consistency and you build ongoing planning into your strategic mix, you'll find yourself saying no to shitty RevOps.
Till next time.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the RevOps Show. If you haven't already, follow us on Apple or Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All of the links to follow us will be in the show notes for you. If you have any inquiries about the show or have any questions you want Doug and Jess to answer, email me at hannah@liftenablement.com. Acceleration cycles are at the heart of driving sustainable growth because knowing when to push, where to focus, and why things slow down can be the difference between scaling and stalling. Until next time, keep accelerating and just say no to shitty RevOps.